The smell hit me first. Expensive perfume mixed with something else I couldn't quite place. Not Riley's usual vanilla body spray, but something sharper, more sophisticated. I stood in the doorway of our cramped two-bedroom apartment, still wearing my paramedic uniform after a brutal 16-hour shift that had included 3 overdoses, a car wreck, and an old man who died in my arms despite everything I tried. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. Riley was sprawled across our secondhand couch, phone pressed to her ear, laughing in that high-pitched way she reserved for her influencer friends. Her makeup was perfect. Full contouring, false eyelashes, the works. At 2 a.m. That should have been my first real clue. "Trust me, babe, Derek's so much more fun than Caleb," she whispered into the phone, not noticing me standing there like a ghost in my own home. "He's got actual money, you know? And his car? Oh my God, you should see this Maserati. Makes Caleb's beat-up Honda look like a toy." I felt something cold settle in my stomach, spreading outward like frostbite. Derek. I knew that name. Derek Morrison, the real estate developer who'd been buying up half the distressed properties in our dying main city. The guy with the perfect teeth and the chrome and glass office downtown. Riley giggled again. Plus, Derek actually appreciates my content. Caleb just rolls his eyes when I'm filming, like, sorry, I'm trying to build something here while you're playing hero with junkies and car crash victims. The words hit harder than any physical blow I'd taken. I'd been working double shifts for months, trying to save enough for the down payment on a house Riley kept talking about. Meanwhile, she'd been building her Instagram following, calling herself a lifestyle influencer while I paid all the bills. I cleared my throat. Riley spun around, eyes wide with surprise that quickly shifted to annoyance. "Caleb! God, you scared me. I thought you were working until morning." Shift ended early. I kept my voice level, professional. The same tone I used when delivering bad news to families in hospital waiting rooms. "Who's Derek?" Derek? Oh, just some guy who's been helping with my brand partnerships. Business stuff." She waved her hand dismissively, but I caught the slight tremor in her voice. After 5 years together, I knew all her tells. "Business stuff that happens at 2 a.m.? Time zones, babe. West Coast clients." She stood up, smoothing down her tight dress, the black one I'd bought her for our anniversary last year. "You look exhausted. Why don't you shower and get some sleep?" I nodded, playing along. But as I headed toward the bathroom, I heard her phone buzz. Then another giggle, quickly muffled. The shower gave me time to think. In my line of work, you learn to read situations fast. Missed details can be the difference between safety and danger. And right now, every detail was screaming that my marriage was bleeding out. When I emerged, Riley was asleep on the couch, still in full makeup, phone clutched in her hand. I stood there for a long moment, watching her fake sleep breathing. Too shallow, too controlled. Her phone buzzed again. A text notification lit up the screen, and I caught a glimpse of the sender. Derek. My hands were steady as I carefully lifted the phone from her fingers. Riley didn't stir. She was committed to the act. The message preview showed, "Can't wait for tomorrow night. That hotel room is going to be..." I didn't need to read the rest, but curiosity ruins more than just careers. I swiped up, and Riley's phone opened. She'd never changed her passcode from my birthday. Sweet irony. The messages went back months. Photos, videos, explicit conversations. But worse than the cheating was the mockery. Screenshots of our private conversations, my work schedule, even photos of me sleeping that she'd shared with her girls' group chat. For laughs. One message thread made my vision blur with rage. Riley. OMG, you guys. Look at this pic of Caleb after his workout. The photo was one I'd sent her privately, shirtless, after a boxing session at Murphy's gym. Nothing scandalous, just me sweaty and tired. Her friend Madison. Girl, why are you with him when Derek looks like a Greek god? Riley. Trust me, not for much longer, just waiting for the right moment. Derek's already talking about getting me a condo downtown. Another friend, Jessica. What about all those medical stories he tells? So gross. Riley. Right? Like I care about your junkie patients, Caleb. Get a real job that doesn't involve bodily fluids. I screenshotted everything. Years of dealing with crisis situations had taught me to document first, react later. The final gut punch came in a video Riley had recorded without my knowledge. Me, coming home exhausted after a particularly brutal shift where we'd lost a kid in a motorcycle accident. I was crying, actually crying, telling Riley about how I'd tried everything, how the kid reminded me of my little brother. She'd posted it in the group chat with the caption, When your boyfriend is more dramatic than a soap opera. The responses were a chorus of laughing emojis and comments about how pathetic and weak I looked. I set the phone back in Riley's hand, my movements precise and controlled. She stirred slightly but didn't wake. Walking to our bedroom, I pulled out a sticky note and wrote, "Thanks for the free PR campaign. Next time, use better lighting. Your dramatic soap opera boyfriend." I stuck it to the bathroom mirror where she'd see it first thing in the morning, grabbed my gym bag, and left. Murphy's gym was the only place open at 3 a.m. that would let me work out my rage without ending up in handcuffs. The owner, Tommy Murphy, was an ex-cop who understood that sometimes men needed to hit things that couldn't press charges. "Rough night?" Tommy asked, looking up from his paperwork as I signed in. "Something like that." The heavy bag became Derek's perfect face. Every punch was a screenshot, every combination a lying text message. I worked until my knuckles bled through the hand wraps, until my shoulders burned and my legs shook. "Easy there, Rocky," a familiar voice said behind me. "Save some bag for the rest of us." I turned to find Joey Martinez, my partner at the EMS station. He was in workout clothes, carrying a protein shake and wearing a concerned expression. "What are you doing here, Joey?" "Could ask you the same thing. It's 4 a.m. and you look like you're trying to murder that bag." Joey had been my partner for 3 years. We'd seen each other through overdoses, accidents, and the kind of human misery that bonded people for life. If anyone would understand, it was him. "Riley's cheating on me." The words came out flat, matter of fact, like reporting vital signs to a doctor. Joey set down his shake. "You sure?" I pulled out my phone, showed him the screenshots. His face darkened as he scrolled through them. "Jesus, Caleb, this is brutal, man." "The best part? She's been sharing photos of me with her little Mean Girls Club, mocking everything about my job, my life, me. What are you going to do?" That was the question, wasn't it? What was Caleb the underdog, Caleb the fool, Caleb the dramatic soap opera boyfriend going to do? I don't know yet, but whatever it is, it's going to be memorable. Joey clapped me on the shoulder. "Just don't do anything that'll get you arrested, okay? She's not worth throwing your life away." I nodded, but inside, something cold and calculating was already forming. Riley wanted drama. Derek wanted to play games with other people's lives. They had no idea what they'd just unleashed. I went home at dawn to find Riley in the kitchen, my sticky note crumpled in her hand. She'd scrubbed off most of her makeup, but her eyes were red-rimmed and puffy. "We need to talk," she said, trying to sound authoritative. "Do we?" I poured myself coffee, acting like this was any other morning. "I thought you preferred talking to Derek." Her face flushed. "It's not what you think." "Really? What is it then?" Because the photos and messages seemed pretty clear. Riley's mouth opened and closed like a fish. She'd always been better at performing for her phone camera than handling real confrontation. "You went through my phone? That's a violation of privacy." I laughed, actually laughed. "Privacy? You posted a video of me crying over a child who was gone, just so you and your friends could laugh at me? But sure, let's talk about privacy violations." Madison thinks I should get a real job. Jessica finds my medical stories gross. And you told them I was pathetic and weak. I sipped my coffee, watching her face crumble. "Which one of those was the lie, Riley?" She sank into a chair, the fight going out of her. "Caleb, I'm sorry. I was just venting. You know how girls talk." "No, I don't. Because when I talk to Joey about relationship stuff, I don't share your private photos or mock your dreams." "I never shared private photos." I pulled out my phone, showed her the screenshot of my workout photo and the group chat responses. Her face went white. It wasn't anything inappropriate. "Without my consent, Riley. You shared a photo of me without my consent to mock me with your friends." She was quiet for a long moment. Then, "What do you want me to do?" "I want you to pack your things and get out." "This is my apartment, too." "Actually, it's not. Lease is in my name. You can stay with Derek. I hear he's got a nice place." Riley's tears started then. Real ones, not the performative crying she did for her Instagram stories. "Please, Caleb, I made a mistake. Derek doesn't mean anything to me." "Then why have you been planning to leave me for him for months?" She had no answer for that. I left her sitting there and went to work. But the gossip mill in our small city was already churning. By the time I got to the EMS station, 3 people had already asked me if it was true that Riley was stepping out. "Small town," Joey said sympathetically. "News travels fast." "How fast?" Well, Derek Morrison's been bragging at the country club about his new influencer girlfriend. Apparently, he's been showing off photos. What kind of photos? Joey looked uncomfortable. I don't know, man, but my cousin works at the club. Says Derek's been real proud of himself lately. That evening, I drove past Derek's chrome and glass office building. His Maserati was parked out front, gleaming under the streetlights. As I watched, Riley emerged from the building, laughing at something Derek was saying. He was tall, perfectly groomed, wearing a suit that probably cost more than I made in a month. They kissed in full view of anyone passing by. No shame, no discretion, just two people who thought they were untouchable. I took photos, not for revenge, not yet, but for documentation. In my line of work, you learn to build a case methodically. The next morning brought a new humiliation. Mrs. Gold, our elderly neighbor, knocked on my door holding a casserole dish and wearing a pitying expression. "I'm so sorry, dear," she said, patting my arm. "I saw Riley leaving with that man yesterday. Such a shame. You're such a nice boy." "What man?" I asked, though I knew. "The one with the fancy car. Tall fellow, very full of himself. They were loading suitcases into his trunk." So Riley had moved out while I was at work. Classy, but Mrs. Gold wasn't done. "I hope you don't mind, but I took some pictures. For insurance purposes, you understand? In case there are any disputes about property." She handed me her phone. The photos showed Riley and Derek loading boxes into his car, laughing and kissing between trips. But more importantly, they showed Riley carrying items I recognized, my grandmother's jewelry box, the laptop I'd bought her, even some of my own belongings. "Mrs. Gold, you're an angel. That girl never deserved you, Caleb. Too full of herself by half." That afternoon, I got a call from Joey. "Dude, you need to see this." He sent me a link to Riley's Instagram. She'd posted a series of photos from Derek's penthouse apartment with the caption, "New chapter, new energy. Sometimes you have to leave the past behind to step into your destiny." New beginnings. That's our level up, blessed life. The comments were a mix of supportive emojis from her followers and more pointed observations from people who knew us both. But the real kicker was in her stories. A video of her and Derek at an expensive restaurant with the caption, "When he actually appreciates your ambition instead of making you feel guilty for having dreams." I screenshotted everything. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about the kid we lost during my shift 2 weeks ago, the one Riley had made fun of. His name was Tyler, and he was 19. He'd been riding his motorcycle to his girlfriend's house when a drunk driver ran a red light. I'd held pressure on his internal bleeding for 20 minutes while we raced to the hospital, talking to him the whole time, telling him about his girlfriend waiting for him, his parents on their way. He'd died anyway, and I'd cried in the ambulance afterward because sometimes the job breaks you a little. Riley had filmed me telling her about it, called me dramatic, and shared it for laughs. The rage that filled me then was different from the anger I'd felt at the gym. This was cold, calculating, surgical. Riley wanted to play games with people's pain. She was about to learn what pain actually looked like. I started with research. Derek Morrison, 38, divorced twice, 3 failed businesses propped up by family money. His current real estate venture was leveraged to the hilt, and he had a reputation for cutting corners on construction projects. More interesting was his social media presence. Derek loved posting about his lifestyle, expensive cars, exclusive restaurants, weekend trips to his lakeside retreat. He also loved posting photos of his dates, though he was careful never to name them directly. Until now. Riley's face was all over his Instagram, tagged and credited. He was showing her off like a trophy. I spent the next week building my case like I was preparing for a medical emergency. Documentation, evidence, contingency plans. Riley and Derek thought they were playing some romantic comedy where the boring husband gets left behind. They had no idea they just walked into a horror story, and I was about to become the monster. The opportunity came sooner than expected. Riley texted me asking to meet for coffee to discuss the separation civilly. She suggested Murphy's Diner, a local place where half the town ate breakfast. Perfect. I arrived early, chose a table in the center of the dining room, and waited. Riley showed up 20 minutes late, wearing a new outfit that probably cost more than my monthly grocery budget. "Thanks for meeting me," she said, sliding into the booth across from me. "I know this is awkward." "Is it? I wouldn't know. I've never cheated on someone before." She flinched. "Can we please not do this here?" "Do what? Have an honest conversation? I thought you liked public attention." Riley glanced around nervously. The diner was filling up with the morning crowd. Construction workers, retirees, local business owners, people who knew us both. I want to make this as easy as possible, she said quietly. I've already moved my things out. We can split everything else fairly. Everything else? Like my grandmother's jewelry box? Her face reddened. That was an accident. I'll return it. What about the laptop? The camera equipment I bought for your content creation? Those were gifts. Were they? Or are you just taking whatever you think you can get away with? Riley's voice rose slightly. I'm trying to be reasonable here, Caleb. Reasonable. I pulled out my phone, opened her Instagram story from the night before. Is this reasonable? Posting about how I never supported your dreams while you're wearing the jewelry I bought you? She grabbed for my phone, but I pulled it back. The motion caught the attention of nearby diners. Keep your voice down, she hissed. Why? Embarrassed? I thought you liked sharing our business with everyone. That's different. How is it different, Riley? How is mocking me to your friends different from having this conversation in public? She was quiet for a moment, realizing she'd walked into a trap. I never meant to hurt you, she said finally. But you did. You filmed me at my lowest moment and shared it for laughs. You mocked my job, my appearance, my emotions. You planned to leave me for months while I worked double shifts to save for our future. Tears started flowing down her cheeks. Real ones this time, not the practiced crying she did for her camera. I'm sorry, she whispered. No, you're not. You're sorry you got caught. There's a difference. I stood up, leaving a 20 on the table. Enjoy your new life, Riley. I hope Derek's worth everything you're about to lose. As I walked out, I heard her call my name, but I didn't turn around. Phase 1 was complete. Now the real work could begin. The next few weeks were a masterclass in patience. I went to work, came home to my empty apartment, and acted like a man trying to heal from a broken marriage. But underneath the surface, I was gathering intelligence like my life depended on it. Riley's social media became my primary source. She couldn't help herself. Every expensive dinner, every weekend getaway, every designer purchase had to be documented and shared. She was living her best life, and she needed everyone to know it. Derek was even worse. His Instagram was a parade of conspicuous consumption, and Riley featured prominently. Photos of her in his Maserati, videos from his lakeside retreat, stories from exclusive restaurants I could never afford on a paramedic's salary. But social media was just the surface. The real information came from living in a small city where everyone knew everyone else's business. Joey's cousin at the country club reported that Derek was bragging about upgrading from his last girlfriend. The bartender at Finnegan's pub mentioned that Derek had been buying rounds and showing off photos on his phone. Even Mrs. Gold had intelligence. She'd seen Derek's car parked at various locations around town, always with Riley in the passenger seat. That man's got no shame, she told me one evening as I was checking my mail, flaunting that poor girl around like she's a new watch. Poor girl. If only she knew. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. I was at the grocery store when I ran into Madison, one of Riley's friends from the group chat. She looked uncomfortable when she saw me, which told me she knew about the messages I'd seen. Hi, Caleb, she said awkwardly. How are you holding up? I'm fine. Thanks for asking. She shifted her weight, clearly wanting to escape. But I wasn't done with her yet. Madison, can I ask you something? Sure. Did you know Riley was cheating before I found out? Her face flushed red. I don't really want to get involved. You were already involved. You were in the group chat, remember? She looked around nervously, as if Riley might materialize from behind the cereal display. Look, Caleb, I'm sorry about some of the things that were said. We were just girls talk, you know? Girls talk about sharing someone's private photos without consent? It wasn't anything bad. Would you want your boyfriend sharing photos of you with his friends to mock you? She was quiet for a moment. Then, no, I wouldn't. Riley's been posting about how unsupportive I was of her dreams, but I worked double shifts to pay for her camera equipment, her website, her promotional materials. Did she mention that in your girls' talks? Madison looked genuinely surprised. She said you didn't take her influencer work seriously. I took it seriously enough to go into debt supporting it. I could see the wheels turning in her head, reassessing everything Riley had told them. Madison, I need you to know something. I have screenshots of every message in that group chat. Every photo, every mocking comment, every cruel joke. Her face went pale. What are you going to do with them? That depends on what happens next. I left her standing there in the produce section, probably wondering how much trouble she was in. That evening, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. This is Madison. Can we talk? We met at a coffee shop across town, away from anywhere Riley might see us. Madison looked nervous, constantly checking her phone and glancing at the door. I want to apologize, she said immediately. For the group chat, for the things we said. It was mean and stupid. Apology noted. What else? What do you mean? Madison, you didn't ask to meet me just to apologize. What do you want? She sighed. I'm worried about Riley. Worried how? He's not what she thinks he is. Now we were getting somewhere. Explain. My friend Sarah dated him about a year ago. He love-bombed her for a few months. Expensive gifts, fancy dinners, weekend trips. Then he got bored and dumped her. But not before he'd used her connections to land a few business deals. What kind of connections? Sarah works for the city planning department. Derek pumped her for information about upcoming development projects, zoning changes, that kind of thing. I felt a cold realization creeping over me. What does Riley do that Derek might find useful? Madison looked confused. She's an influencer. She doesn't have business connections or anything. But I was thinking about something else entirely. Riley knew my work schedule, my routes, my cases. She knew which neighborhoods had the most emergency calls, which properties were involved in accidents or overdoses, which areas the city was targeting for cleanup efforts. Information that would be very valuable to a real estate developer. Madison, I need you to do something for me. What? I need you to stay in that group chat. Keep acting normal. But I want you to pay attention to what Riley shares about her new life with Derek. Why? Because I think Derek's using her for more than just arm candy, and when he's done with her, she's going to get hurt in ways she can't imagine? Madison nodded slowly. What about the screenshots you have? What about them? Are you going to do anything with them? I smiled, but there was no warmth in it. That depends on how much damage Riley and Derek do before this is over. The next morning brought a new development. Joey pulled me aside at the station with a grim expression. We've got a problem, he said. What kind of problem? Remember that accident report from last month? The one on Maple Street where the drunk driver hit the utility pole? Yeah, what about it? The property owner is claiming the accident damaged his foundation. He's suing the city for negligence, saying we should have responded faster. I felt my stomach drop. Who's the property owner? Derek Morrison. The pieces clicked into place with sickening clarity. Derek hadn't just been using Riley for sex or social status. He'd been using her to get inside information about emergency response times, accident reports, and property damage assessments. Joey, I need you to pull all our response records for the past 6 months. Every call, every report, every incident. Why? Because I think Derek Morrison has been using my wife to commit insurance fraud. And if that was true, then Riley wasn't just a cheating wife anymore. She was an accessory to a federal crime. The hunt had just become something much more dangerous. I spent the weekend cross-referencing our emergency response records with Derek's property acquisitions and insurance claims. The pattern was damning. Every property Derek had bought in the past 8 months had been the site of an emergency call, accidents, overdoses, domestic disturbances, medical emergencies. More troubling, Derek's insurance claims consistently cited delayed emergency response as a contributing factor to property damage. He was claiming that longer response times led to more extensive damage, justifying inflated settlement amounts. The problem was, our response times were well within city standards. But Derek's claims suggested otherwise, and he had detailed incident reports to back up his assertions. Reports that contained information only someone with access to our internal systems would know. Information like exact response times, crew assignments, and post-incident assessments. Information that Riley could have easily accessed through my work laptop when I brought it home. I needed proof, and I knew exactly where to find it. Monday morning, I called in sick and drove to Derek's office building. His Maserati was in its usual spot, which meant he was in the building. I parked across the street and waited. At 11:30, Derek and Riley emerged, heading to lunch. They were laughing, his arm around her waist, looking like the perfect power couple. Riley was wearing another new outfit, this one probably worth more than I made in a week. I waited until they were out of sight, then walked into the building. Derek's office was on the 3rd floor, according to the directory. The elevator was empty, giving me time to think about what I was doing. This was breaking and entering. If I got caught, I could lose my job, face criminal charges, destroy my life. But if Derek was using Riley to commit fraud, people needed to know. The 3rd floor was quiet. Most offices closed for lunch. Derek's suite was at the end of the hall, behind glass doors etched with Morrison Development Group. The doors were locked, but the lock was standard office grade. I'd learned to pick locks as a teenager, a skill that had come in handy during emergency calls when we needed to access locked buildings quickly. Derek's office was exactly what I'd expected. All chrome and glass, expensive furniture, photos of development projects on the walls. His computer was password protected, but his filing cabinets weren't locked. The insurance claims were in the second drawer, organized by property address. I photographed everything: claim forms, supporting documentation, correspondence with insurance companies. Every page that mentioned emergency response times or cited delayed medical assistance. The smoking gun was in the third drawer, a folder labeled Research that contained printed copies of our incident reports. Not the public summaries available through FOIA requests, but detailed internal reports with crew notes, response time breakdowns, and post-incident assessments. Reports that Riley had photographed with her phone while I was sleeping. I was photographing the last document when I heard voices in the hallway. Derek and Riley, back from lunch early. "Told you the claims adjuster was impressed?" Derek was saying as they approached the door. "Your boyfriend's incident reports were exactly what we needed to prove negligence." "Ex-boyfriend," Riley corrected. "And I still feel weird about using his work stuff." "Baby, you're helping expose systemic problems with emergency response. That's a public service." I heard keys jingling. They were about to come in, and I was trapped behind Derek's desk with a filing cabinet full of evidence. The office had a private bathroom. I slipped inside just as the main door opened, leaving it cracked so I could hear their conversation. "I've got the Hartley Street property assessment this afternoon," Derek said. "The fire department's response time was nearly 12 minutes. With your photos of Caleb's incident report, we should be able to claim significant smoke damage that could have been prevented." "How much are we talking about?" Riley asked. 50,000, maybe more. Enough for that trip to Paris you wanted." Riley giggled. "I can't believe how easy this is. Easy money, beautiful girlfriend, new life. Sometimes everything just falls into place." I heard kissing sounds, then Derek's voice again. "I've got to make some calls. Why don't you go shopping? Pick out something nice for dinner tonight." "With what credit card?" "Use the business account. You've earned it." More kissing, then the sound of Riley's heels clicking toward the door. "See you tonight, baby," she called. "Love you too, gorgeous." The door closed. Derek was alone in his office, probably 3 feet from where I was hiding. I heard him settle into his chair, then the sound of a phone dialing. "Frank, it's Derek. I've got another claim for you." "Yeah, the Hartley Street fire. I've got documentation showing the fire department took nearly 12 minutes to respond. Smoke damage could have been minimized with faster response." I know, but I've got internal incident reports that prove negligence." He was literally committing fraud while I listened. I waited another 10 minutes until Derek left for his appointment, then slipped out of the office. My hands were shaking as I walked to my car, but I had everything I needed. That evening, I called Joey. "I need to report a crime," I said. "What kind of crime?" "Insurance fraud, using stolen emergency response records." I explained everything I'd discovered, sent him the photos I'd taken. Joey was quiet for a long time after I finished. "Jesus, Caleb, this is federal stuff. Wire fraud, conspiracy, theft of government documents." I know." "Riley's going to be in serious trouble." "I know that too." "Are you sure you want to do this? Once you file this report, there's no taking it back." I thought about Tyler, the 19-year-old who died in my arms. About all the other victims whose pain Derek was exploiting for profit. About Riley filming me crying over a kid who'd passed away and sharing it for laughs. "I'm sure." "Okay. I'll call my contact at the FBI field office. They'll want to interview you tomorrow." After I hung up, I sat in my empty apartment thinking about what came next. Riley had no idea that her new life was about to implode. Derek had no idea that his insurance scam was about to be exposed. They'd played games with other people's pain for money. Now they were about to learn what real pain felt like. My phone buzzed with a text from Riley. "Can you please stop telling people we're getting divorced? It's embarrassing." I stared at the message for a long moment, then typed back, "You should probably call a lawyer. You're going to need one." She responded immediately. "What's that supposed to mean?" But I didn't answer. She'd find out soon enough. The trap was set. Now all I had to do was wait for it to spring. The FBI took my complaint seriously. Agent Sarah Chen met me at the federal building downtown Tuesday morning, along with a prosecutor from the U.S. Attorney's Office. I walked them through everything: the stolen incident reports, Derek's insurance claims, Riley's role in accessing the documents. "This is substantial," Agent Chen said, reviewing my photographs. "We're talking about multiple counts of wire fraud, conspiracy, and theft of government property." "What happens next?" I asked. "We'll need to verify your evidence, interview witnesses, build a case. That takes time. How much time? Weeks, maybe months. Federal cases move slowly. But I didn't have weeks or months. Riley and Derek were actively committing fraud, and every day they continued meant more victims, more stolen money, more damage. I needed a faster solution. That evening, I got a call from Madison. "Riley's freaking out," she said without preamble. "About what?" "Your text yesterday. She thinks you're planning something." "What did she tell you?" "That you've been acting weird, asking strange questions, that you threatened her somehow." I laughed. "Threatened her? By telling her to get a lawyer?" "She thinks you're going to try to take half her stuff in the divorce." "What stuff? Her debt? Her stolen merchandise?" Madison was quiet for a moment. "Caleb, what did you mean about her needing a lawyer?" "I can't tell you that. But Madison, if I were you, I'd distance myself from Riley and Derek, quickly." "Are they in trouble? They're about to be?" Wednesday brought a new development. Derek posted on Instagram about his latest investment opportunity, a damaged property on Elm Street that he planned to renovate after settling with the insurance company. I recognized the address. We'd responded to a kitchen fire there 2 months ago. The homeowner was an elderly woman named Mrs. Patterson who'd fallen asleep while cooking. The fire had been contained to one room, but she'd suffered smoke inhalation and died at the hospital 3 days later. Derek was profiting off a woman's tragedy. That was the moment I stopped caring about legal niceties. I drove to Derek's lakeside retreat that evening. It was a sprawling glass and cedar house on Moose Pond, the kind of place that screamed new money. Derek's Maserati was in the driveway, along with Riley's Honda, the car I'd co-signed for and was still making payments on. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, I could see them having dinner on the deck, wine glasses catching the sunset, looking like something out of a lifestyle magazine. I took photos, then drove home to plan. Thursday morning, I called Derek's office. "Morrison Development, this is Derek." "Mr. Morrison, this is Caleb Thompson. I think we need to talk." There was a long pause. "I don't think we have anything to discuss." "We do. It's about Riley and some documents she's been sharing with you." Another pause, longer this time. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Emergency response records, incident reports, insurance claims based on stolen government documents." The silence stretched out so long I thought he'd hung up. "Where do you want to meet?" he said finally. "Your office, 1 hour." I arrived to find Derek pacing behind his desk, his usual confidence replaced by nervous energy. Riley was there too, sitting in a corner chair, looking scared and confused. "What do you want?" Derek asked without preamble. "I want you to withdraw your insurance claims." "That's not going to happen." "Then I want you to know that I've turned over evidence of your fraud scheme to the FBI." Riley gasped. Derek's face went white. "You're bluffing," he said. I pulled out my phone, showed them photos of the documents I'd found in his filing cabinet. "I was here Monday while you were at lunch. I photographed everything." Derek sank into his chair. "You broke into my office, and you stole government documents. Which crime do you think carries a longer sentence?" Riley found her voice. "Caleb, what are you talking about? What documents?" I looked at her, really looked at her for the first time in weeks. She seemed smaller somehow, less sure of herself. "The incident reports you photographed while I was sleeping, the ones Derek's been using to file fraudulent insurance claims." "I never," she started, then stopped as Derek shot her a warning look. "Riley, did you think Derek was interested in you for your sparkling personality?" I asked. "You're a small-town influencer with 3,000 followers. What could you possibly offer a man like him?" "We're in love," she said weakly. "You're a tool, a means to access information he needed to commit federal crimes." Derek stood up. "That's enough. Get out of my office." "Gladly. But you should know, I've already given the FBI everything they need to prosecute you both. Wire fraud, conspiracy, theft of government property. Riley's looking at 5 to 10 years as an accessory." Riley started crying. "Caleb, please. I didn't know." "You didn't know what? That stealing government documents was illegal? That helping someone commit insurance fraud was a crime?" Derek said we were exposing problems with emergency response. Derek said whatever he needed to say to get you to help him steal money from insurance companies. I turned to Derek. "How many properties? How many fraudulent claims?" He didn't answer, but I could see the calculation in his eyes. He was trying to figure out how much trouble he was in. "Here's what's going to happen," I continued. "You're going to withdraw every fraudulent insurance claim you filed. You're going to return every penny you've stolen. And you're going to pray that the FBI decides not to prosecute. And if I don't, then you'll find out what federal prison is like. Both of you." Riley was sobbing now, mascara running down her cheeks. Caleb, please don't do this. I'm sorry. I'll do anything. Anything? Will you bring back Mrs. Patterson, the elderly woman who died in the Elm Street fire that Derek's profiting from? Riley looked confused. Derek's face went even paler. That's right, Riley. Your boyfriend is making money off other people's tragedies. How does that feel? She looked at Derek with dawning horror. You said the properties were abandoned. I said what I needed to say, Derek snapped. And there it was, the moment Riley realized what she'd really gotten involved in. You have 24 hours, I told Derek. Withdraw the claims, return the money, and maybe, the FBI will go easy on you. I walked toward the door, then turned back. Oh, and Riley, you might want to check your credit report. I'm betting Derek's been using your information for more than just insurance fraud. I left them there, Derek calculating his options, Riley realizing her dream life was built on other people's suffering. The execution was complete. Now came the finale. I didn't have to wait long for Derek's response. Friday morning, my phone rang at 6 a.m. You win, Derek said without preamble. I'll withdraw the claims. All of them, and I'll return the money. How much money are we talking about? There was a long pause. $230,000. I felt dizzy. Jesus Christ, Derek, $200,000? It was easy money. The insurance companies never questioned claims that had government documentation backing them up. Documentation you stole. Documentation Riley provided. Even now, he was trying to shift blame to her. What about Riley? I asked. What about her? Is she facing charges? That's between her and the FBI. But I already knew the answer. Riley had been a useful tool, but Derek would throw her under the bus without hesitation to save himself. Derek, one more thing. What? If you ever contact Riley again, if you ever try to involve her in any of your schemes, I'll make sure the FBI knows about every corner you've ever cut, every regulation you've ever violated, every person you've ever screwed over. Are you threatening me? I'm making you a promise. I hung up and immediately called Agent Chen to report Derek's confession and agreement to return the money. That's good news, she said. It shows cooperation. The prosecutor will take that into consideration. What about Riley? That's more complicated. She was clearly manipulated, but she still participated in federal crimes. The prosecutor will have to decide whether to charge her. After I hung up, I sat in my apartment thinking about Riley. Despite everything she'd done, the cheating, the mockery, the theft, I didn't want to see her go to prison. She'd been stupid and cruel, but Derek had exploited her weaknesses for his own gain. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. This is Riley. Can we please talk? I stared at the message for a long time before responding. Murphy's Diner, 1 hour. Riley was already there when I arrived, sitting in a back booth with dark sunglasses covering her eyes. She looked terrible. No makeup, hair unwashed, wearing a cheap t-shirt instead of her usual designer clothes. Thank you for coming, she said as I slid into the seat across from her. You look awful. She laughed bitterly. I feel awful. Derek kicked me out yesterday after you left his office. Where are you staying? Motel 6 on Route 1. Turns out all those credit cards he gave me were in his name. They stopped working as soon as he called the companies. I felt a flicker of sympathy, which surprised me. Riley, did you know what Derek was really doing? No, I swear to God, Caleb. I thought I was just sharing information about response times. Derek said he was trying to help improve emergency services by documenting problems. And you believed him? I wanted to believe him. He made me feel important, like I was contributing to something meaningful. She pulled off her sunglasses, revealing red, swollen eyes. I know you hate me, she continued. I know I destroyed our marriage and hurt you in ways I can't take back. But please don't let them send me to prison. Riley, I don't control what the FBI does. But you could talk to them. Tell them I was manipulated, that I didn't know what Derek was really doing. I studied her face, looking for signs of deception. But all I saw was genuine fear and regret. Why should I help you, after everything you did to me? Because despite everything, I know you're a good person. You save people's lives for a living. You've never been cruel or vindictive, even when I gave you every reason to be. She was right, and we both knew it. Riley, if I help you, I need something in return. Anything. I need you to testify against Derek. Tell the FBI everything. How he manipulated you. What he told you about the insurance claims. Every detail you can remember. What if he retaliates? He won't. Derek's going to be too busy trying to stay out of federal prison to worry about revenge. Riley nodded slowly. Okay, I'll do it. And Riley, You need to understand something. Even if I help you, even if you avoid prison, your life as you knew it is over. The influencer career, the designer clothes, the dream of being rich and famous, that's all gone. I know. You're going to have to get a real job, live within your means, rebuild your reputation from nothing. I know. And we're never getting back together. Even if you avoid prison, even if you turn your life around, what you did to our marriage can't be undone. Tears started flowing down her cheeks again. I know that too. I reached across the table and took her hand, the first time I'd touched her in weeks. But Riley, you're not a bad person. You're selfish and naive, and you made terrible choices, but you're not evil like Derek. You can come back from this. She squeezed my hand. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. Thank me after you've spent a year working at Walmart and living in a studio apartment, when you realize what real life actually costs. That afternoon, I called Agent Chen and explained Riley's situation. She agreed to meet with Riley and consider a cooperation agreement in exchange for her testimony against Derek. What about you? Agent Chen asked. How are you holding up through all this? I'm okay. Better than okay, actually. And it was true. For the first time in months, I felt like myself again. Not the victim, not the fool, not the underdog. Just Caleb Thompson, paramedic, problem solver, someone who cleaned up other people's messes for a living. 2 weeks later, Derek Morrison was arrested on federal charges. The local newspaper ran a front-page story about the insurance fraud scheme, complete with photos of Derek in handcuffs and details about the stolen emergency response records. Riley testified to a federal grand jury and received a cooperation agreement that kept her out of prison in exchange for community service and restitution payments. She moved back in with her parents and got a job at the Target in the next town over. I never saw Derek again, but I heard he pleaded guilty to avoid trial and got 3 years in federal prison plus restitution. His real estate company went bankrupt, his assets were seized, and his lakeside retreat was sold to pay back the insurance companies. 6 months after it all began, I was working a night shift when Joey brought me a cup of coffee and sat down beside me. You ever regret it? He asked. Regret what? Turning them in. Destroying Riley's life. I thought about it for a moment. Riley destroyed her own life. I just made sure she faced consequences for it. And Derek? Derek got what he deserved. He was stealing money from insurance companies by exploiting people's tragedies. Mrs. Patterson died in that fire, Joey. Derek made money off her passing. Joey nodded. Still? It must feel weird, knowing you're the reason your ex-wife's working retail and your ex-friend's in federal prison. Derek was never my friend, and Riley needed to learn that actions have consequences. You sound different, Joey said. Harder. Not harder. Just clearer about who I am and what I'll tolerate. My phone buzzed with a text from Riley. Started college classes tonight. Business administration. Thank you for giving me a second chance. I showed the message to Joey. Think she'll make it? He asked. Yeah, I think she will. She's tougher than she looks and smarter than she acts. She just needed to learn the difference between real life and Instagram. What about you? You dating anyone? I laughed. Joey, 6 months ago I discovered my wife was cheating on me and helping her boyfriend commit federal crimes. I think I'll stay single for a while. Fair enough. We sat in comfortable silence for a few minutes, listening to the radio chatter and watching the city sleep. Caleb? Yeah? I'm proud of you, man. What you did took guts. I just did what needed to be done. Not everyone would have. Most people would have just filed for divorce and moved on. Most people don't have access to federal crime evidence. Joey laughed. True, but still. You could have just used it to hurt them personally. Instead, you made sure justice was served. I thought about that as we finished our shift. Justice. Was that what I'd accomplished? Or had I just been more clever about revenge than most people? Maybe it didn't matter. Derek was in prison, Riley was rebuilding her life, and I was free to move forward without the weight of their betrayal dragging me down. As I drove home that morning, I passed the billboard Derek's company used to rent. It now advertised a local restaurant. The chrome and glass office building still stood downtown, but Derek's suite was empty, a for rent sign in the window. Riley's Instagram account was gone, deleted months ago. Her dreams of influencer fame had died with Derek's arrest. I pulled into my apartment complex and sat in my car for a moment, thinking about how much had changed. 6 months ago, I'd been the fool, the victim, the underdog who didn't even know he was being betrayed. Now I was just Caleb Thompson again, paramedic, problem solver, survivor. My phone rang. Emergency dispatch. Unit 47. We have a cardiac event at 1247 Maple Street. Respond code 3. I started my car and headed to work. Someone needed help, and I was good at helping people, even when they didn't deserve it.